The rain fell softly over the small, sleepy town of Willow Creek. The kind of drizzle that whispered rather than poured. The kind that carried memories instead of merely water. The streets were almost empty, save for the slow hum of a streetlight, flickering above the grocery store and the distant bark of a lonely dog. Inside a small wooden house on the edge of town, Ethan Hale sat by the window, a cup of black coffee trembling slightly in his hands. His eyes were fixed on the foggy glass, but his thoughts were miles away, back to the night his wife had left this world, leaving behind nothing but her scent on the pillow and a tiny heartbeat in the next room. It had been 3 years since that night. 3 long years of trying to fill 2 roles, mother and father, for his daughter, Lila, who was now 6 and had her mother's laughter, her mother's stubbornness, and sometimes her mother's tears. Every day began the same way, preparing breakfast with half-closed eyes, packing Lila's school lunch, enforcing a smile so she'd never see the sadness sitting behind his ribs. Ethan was 32, a carpenter by trade, though lately his hands trembled too much to carve with precision. His small workshop stood behind the house, filled with unfinished furniture and the smell of sawdust and rain. The locals admired his work, yet they pitied him more. The single father with the soft voice, they'd whisper. He didn't mind. Pity was better than being forgotten. And then there was Grace Turner, the widow who lived across the street. She was 30, graceful but quiet, her face framed by loose strands of dark hair she never bothered to tie up properly. She had lost her husband in an accident just a year ago, and though her door was always closed, her heart was louder than anyone knew. She lived with silence, the kind that echoes in every room, the kind that follows you like a shadow. Every morning, Ethan saw her through the kitchen window. She would stand on her porch, holding a cup of tea, staring at the same fog he did. Their eyes met sometimes, just long enough to remind each other that they weren't the only ones who knew what it felt like to lose everything. That Monday morning, the sky looked heavy, swollen with clouds. Lila's laughter broke through the silence as she ran across the living room with her backpack bouncing. "Daddy, hurry up! I'll be late," she said, half laughing, half pouting. Ethan smiled, tying her shoelaces. "I'm right here, Peanut. Don't worry. No one's faster than Daddy." "You're not faster than Mrs. Turner's cat," she said, giggling. Ethan chuckled. Mrs. Turner's cat, Whiskers, was the only one who dared cross the invisible line between their 2 lonely homes. That cat had become an accidental messenger, slipping through Ethan's porch, meowing at his door, and sometimes curling up next to Lila as if sensing that both houses needed comfort. That afternoon the rain returned, heavier this time. Ethan went to pick up Lila from school, and by the time they reached home, she was sneezing. "You'll get sick if you keep playing in the rain," he scolded gently, drying her hair with a towel. But as he tucked her into bed, she whispered, "Daddy, can Mrs. Turner come for dinner? She looks lonely." Ethan froze for a moment. He looked out the window. Her porch light was on, faint but warm. The rain blurred the distance between their homes like a soft curtain. He hesitated, then sighed. "Maybe tomorrow, sweetheart," he said. But tomorrow came differently. That evening, when Ethan stepped outside to take out the trash, he saw Grace kneeling beside her car, struggling to change a tire in the pouring rain. Without thinking, he ran over. "Hey, you'll catch a cold out here," he said, holding an umbrella above her. Grace looked up, startled, her eyes tired but kind. "I can handle it," she murmured, though her hands were trembling against the wrench. Ethan knelt beside her. "Please, let me help." After a long pause, she sighed and handed him the wrench. They worked in silence, their breath mingling with the mist. When he tightened the last bolt, Grace whispered, "Thank you, Mr. Hale." He smiled faintly. "Ethan, just Ethan." She nodded. "Grace." The way she said his name, soft but fragile, made something inside him stir. Something he thought had died the night his wife did. That small moment turned into something neither of them expected. The next day, Grace showed up at his door with a pot of soup, saying it was for Lila, though her eyes betrayed a deeper reason. That night, for the first time in 3 years, Ethan heard laughter echo through his house again. Real laughter, the kind that doesn't belong to memory. Over the next few weeks, Grace began visiting more often, sometimes to help with dinner, sometimes just to sit quietly while Lila played with Whiskers. They didn't talk about their pain much. They didn't have to. Silence became their language, one that said everything their hearts couldn't. But healing is never gentle. It creeps in slowly, and then one day it demands to be felt. It was on a late Sunday evening when the moment finally broke. Lila had fallen asleep on the couch, and the two of them sat by the fireplace, the sound of crackling wood filling the space between them. Grace stared into the flames and whispered, "Do you ever stop missing them?" Ethan's hand tightened around his mug. "No, you just learn to live around the emptiness." She nodded slowly, her voice trembling. "I tried to forget. I thought moving here would help, but every night I still hear him calling my name." Ethan looked at her, really looked at her, the tears she fought, the loneliness she carried. Without thinking, he reached out and placed his hand over hers. "You don't have to be alone in this," he said softly. Her lips parted as if to speak, but no words came. Instead, she looked at him, eyes glistening, and whispered, "Please don't leave." Those words, quiet, trembling, broken, pierced the last wall between them. Ethan pulled her close, and for the first time since the rain had started, she finally cried. Her sobs were soft but real, echoing through the tiny room like the sound of something beautiful breaking. He held her, not as a man saving a woman, but as a soul recognizing another in the ruins. Outside, the rain stopped. Inside, something new began. Not love yet, but something close to it. And as the fire burned low, Ethan whispered back, "I'm not going anywhere." For the first time in years, the house didn't feel empty. It felt like home, fragile, mending, and full of promise.